Morning, everyone. Welcome.
Morning.
Hopefully travel in wasn't too terrible. People did not suffer from some of the weather. But we are pleased that you're here. We're excited to kind of get this started. My name is Anthony Murray. I'm from an organization called MRO Corporation. We specialize in accelerating clinical data exchange, focusing on providers and fulfilling requests to a variety of requesters, and FHIR is one of those as well. So what we're going to talk about today is interoperability, which we think of as integrations with systems. And really what we're trying to do is marry complex business processes in order to help facilitate a much more seamless exchange of information and remain compliant, have clarity, and be able to provide contextual insight out of this information. So today I'm joined by Prudence from CHRISTUS Health, and I'd love to have her introduce herself and her organization.
Hi, good morning. My name is Prudence. I'm from CHRISTUS Health. By background, I'm a nurse, but I moved over to the corporate entity about 13 years ago and functioned primarily under the umbrella of HIM, which is how I came to know Anthony and the team from MRO. CHRISTUS is a Catholic faith-based organization. We have hospitals across about 3 to 4 states. We are international as well. And we provide a lot of care in community hospitals out in the rural areas of our states we serve. We have currently been undergoing a very extensive Epic implementation. We've brought up about a third of our facilities in a couple of weeks on March 1st. We will bring the rest up. So it's been a very busy time for us at CHRISTUS, and we have been really focused on moving ourselves from having 6+ EMRs to going to a single Epic EMR. So we are really looking forward to that and the opportunities that's going to present to us.
If we think about the challenges that we're seeing, they're ever evolving. They continue to change, manifest, move quickly. But what we know is there's a lot of pressure on provider organizations. What we see is that there's a large administrative burden happening in order to provide information services in healthcare systems and administrative operations. We see an increased, huge demand for data, especially as it becomes more digitized. So how do we focus on implementing those technologies in a way, again, that help us drive automation, but still provide all of our compliance that we need in order to share and have assurances that we're operating with all of the appropriate privacy and security concerns? We see a large demand from payers now that are timely and time sensitive with concepts like HEDIS and risk adjustment, which is a lot of volume that has grown incredibly large over the last couple of years. And the expectation is that we're turning around those requests in very quick turnaround times. And then we know that it's difficult to find staff. So I'm assuming that a lot of you are challenged in A, getting the appropriate staff in, and B, getting them aligned to various projects because of all of the competition across the healthcare ecosystem. So Prudence has really pulled forth as one of our visionaries, her model on how she's bringing automation and technology into her organization to help better service her patients.
Yeah, so we kind of started looking at what were some ways that we could better improve the ability to get things to our patients. On the last slide, Anthony showed the increase in the number of releases or records requests and the number of audits that are out there. We feel that. I mean, we feel that every single day, and it is a lot. So what can we do? When the opportunity for auto retrieval came to us, I just knew, yes, we've got to do this. This isn't something we need to sit on. This isn't something we need to wait for. We really need to do this. The second thing we thought about was how can we improve patient satisfaction and engagement? That's so important. People want to be able to control their own health data. How can we help them be able to get that? And so we wanted different means outside of just MyChart for patients to be able to access records in a better and quicker manner. So that was one of our key things as well. The last piece here is about the digital images that are out there. CDs and flash drives are a thing of the past. We really want to try to move away from that and have a better opportunity to digitally release those films to providers, to patients, to whoever needs them, in a way that is efficient, that is safe as far as, from leaking PHI or anything like that. We want it to be very safe, and we want to make sure that our patients are protected.
So we took the opportunity to work with Prudence and CHRISTUS and a lot of our other customers on that number one topic. How do we drive automation into these workflows that are really exception-based? And we think about all of the ways that a human being has to touch, manipulate, think about, and process something as simple as even a treatment request for information. So as we start to think about more complex rules, how do we take into account all of the processes that you already have in place and begin to digitize them? So we're taking advantage of assessing our partners' policies and procedures, release requirements, release restrictions, and then taking technology to basically echo and mirror in a very consistent manner all of those controls that have been in place forever. So in doing that, we're able to now take requests that would have taken days, weeks, months, depending on how big your backlogs are, and begin to process them consistently. Because unlike me, who needs a lot of caffeine in the morning to get going and not make mistakes, once we can get these controls in place and proven out, they're very consistent and we can operate very quickly. But there's upkeep and maintenance that comes. As this continues to evolve, you have to think about the way that you're already doing your doc types, your print groups, and expanding that to how you're managing your digital templates. So FHIR and USCDI are kind of like the keys to unlocking a lot of this. FHIR is a how we do things. We're going to connect, we're going to use FHIR where we can use FHIR, we're going to use other APIs, there's already existing technologies, but as this evolves, it will continue to be a very powerful tool. USCDI is really one of the keys as well, though. It's the what we are sharing. This gives us the ability to enforce minimum necessary. It gives us the ability to have honest control over what we are releasing based off of its purpose of use or exchange purpose. It is not easy. It takes time. You need an appetite to do that. And folks that are doing that pick and shovel level work are starting to see the benefits of it, but it's not magic and it's not the easy button. So we try and draw out a simple way to talk about it. This is where the cooking with FHIR starts to come in. FHIR, if we think about it, your EMR is basically your grocery store of data. You have ingredients that you collect all of the shelves. Those are your FHIR resources, hopefully identified through USCDI. And then you have all of your exchange purposes, which is really just a collection of recipes. So how do you assemble all of this in order to present like a super tasty meal in a really effective way and maintain all of that quality control of the fine restaurants through your compliance and privacy departments? So we can look at like each use case as its own recipe, talk through about how we're starting to break apart these resources, whether they're through FHIR or through some other data feeds or some other mechanisms. It's that marriage of the business process to the technology that is really going to unlock interoperability. It's not a tech thing. With that, we drive really hard into that business process model. Without this, it's not going to unlock all of the possibilities of what we can bring forward through technology. So Prudence, how did this work for you as we step through all of your controls that are in place and your procedures?
Yeah, so this is a really, really important piece for us. We wanted to be sure that we were meeting the minimum necessary, but we wanted to also be sure that we had a clear vision of exactly what we were allowing to go out of our organization. We wanted to make sure that we got to sit at the table and determine what was happening, what was going where, what ingredients we picked that we were going to send out. And so it was very important to us to be able to do that. And then we're able to see that. The transparency's there. We're able to see it. The visibility is really clear to us. And this has been the key, I think, to us and what made us the most comfortable. We've had opportunities to talk with other people that have wanted access to some of our records and things. And we don't want to give people carte blanche of everything. They don't need that. It's not necessary. And so this has been a really key component to this whole process for us.
So just a little fun fact, accomplished HIM career, health career. The reason that she signed up for this is she's also just successfully finished culinary school. So you're actually speaking to a chef as well. May have stolen that to get the recipes. What we see is once we do that, the impact can be quite outstanding. So do you want to talk a little bit about some of the success that you started to see out of this behavior?
Yeah. So this slide makes me so happy when I get to see this and see the process we made. So as you're looking, you can see the spike. As we saw the volume start to really increase in 23 and 24, we were very concerned because we were like, this is happening. And we started to see those turnaround times start to creep up. Very concerning to me. And you can see here in September of 24, I kept wanting to say 23. September of 24 is when we actually implemented. And you can see where we started to release through auto retrieval. And look at that blue line, those turnaround times just starting to take that nosedive. We were so excited to see that and to be able to understand that, you know, we took this and we ran with it and look at the outcomes that we're having. So we had the turnaround time was well below our expected outcome. We were thinking, you know, I don't even know what we said at first, how much it was going to be, but our first look at it was 1.8%. And we were like, 1.8 days. And we were like, wow, this is incredible. And then we had a success rate of about 88% of our records being able to go out auto retrieval. So we didn't just sit on that. We were like, okay, let's see what can we look at within that other 12%. Why didn't those go? And so it really opened the door for us to be able to understand that, you know, with our Epic integration that we're doing, we found that as CHRISTUS, we needed to put a little bit more work into making sure we had all of our migration coming on over appropriately and being able to match those CSNs appropriately, which is going to allow us to continue to get those records out the door. So very pleased with our success metrics and how we've been able to tell this story in a very clear picture.
We think about using staff at the highest levels of their skill. And we think about like large seasonal activity, it distracts them from what they typically do every day. So we get these huge HEDIS demands in, we get this large risk adjustment. And what we wind up doing is flattening that work out as long as we can, because we don't have to like spontaneously hire. Technology is really good at helping augment that type of work where we can drive into those consistencies and we can focus our people on the most complex things that are actually super urgent for patient care. And I think that's one of the most critical things is we take the burden of this type of work off and allow people to get to the things that are of really high value to our organizations and to our patients. Prudence, I think you also mentioned doing this work is almost a sanitization effort because as you begin to assess the fallout, you start to see where gaps of data classification, import mechanisms, other like upsourced technologies are impacting your ability to exchange clinical data digitally consistently. And you can take those opportunities to make improvements upstream in your organization, which has a lot more effect than even just auto retrieval.
100%.
So any lessons learned that you'd like to share with the audience this morning?
Yes, lots of lessons learned. So I would say if you know, this is your business and you're doing this, engage your IT early. We did have IT involved, but I don't think I was very as clear as I could have been in really helping them understand my why this was important to me. Because once I was able to paint that clear picture to them and we were able to really help them understand what it was we were trying to accomplish, our implementation went so quickly and was so much smoother. So it's one of the key things that I think we did. I also engaged with mortgage managed care. We've worked with managed care a whole lot over the years. They, you know, work with our payers, and so we're thinking constantly about how can we streamline their workflows so that these payers are getting what they need, but we're not giving them access through things like Epic Payer Platform. We want to make sure that we can have visibility into what they're getting. So we've been able to work with them and provide an alternate to the payer platform that allows our payers to be satisfied because they're getting what they need and they're getting it quicker. So they're able to get that information in quickly. I'd say to communicate clearly with your stakeholders. That is the key. You want to make sure everybody is reading from the same page in the book. If we're in different chapters, we have a problem. So that's kind of a given for any kind of implementation, but very, very clear. And I think this last bullet's for you.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Automation maximizes.
Yeah, so we really talk about it. This is complementary to the work that you're already doing. This is not a replacement from your EMRs. This is not a replacement for your MyChart. There are places where things like your payer portals make sense. What this is optionality, and it is truly a provider-centric approach to sharing information that we believe is incredibly important, because the providers need to make sure that their controls are in place. They have good line of sight, that they're able to have accountability and auditability for what is now being released in a much more fluid way with less human intervention. So how do we think about taking advantage of the Epic FHIR logs to go pull and report for an HIM because we have to do an accounting of disclosure? Are those things that we're thinking about? Are those things that we're building into it? You can find ROI partners, release of information partners, who have that level of reporting. But the more we bring digital exchange into HIM and release of information, you now have a centralized and consistent approach to how you're sharing information that may be leaking is probably a strong term, but leaking from your organizations in various places, which is not an old story, not a new story. That's been happening forever. So we look at these types of things as complementary to what your organizations are already doing. You don't have to like upset the apple cart, restart, or minimize the investment in something that is like considerably your most largest investment, which is your EMR technologies. So with that, I think we've actually come to a close. Gave you a couple minutes back. Hopefully this was beneficial for you all, something to think about. I will share a note from last night. We had the opportunity to speak to some CHIME members and CIOs. And I think the one thing that came away was the fact that with the change and the acceleration and the dynamic nature of how we're sharing information is not necessarily top of mind in the CIOs. So how do we engage as enterprise organizations to pull the right people in, to create that funding, to get the resources, to have a vision for what is changing very drastically from a digital exchange landscape? So more to come. Appreciate everybody's time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prudence.
No, thank you.